So much. All right, this morning, a bipartisan group of senators is sounding the alarm after the Trump administration announced it would no longer fund a program tracking evidence of alleged Russian war crimes. Researchers at Yale's Humanitarian Research Lab say they lost access to a database that included tracking locations of more than 30,000 abducted Ukrainian children. Leading the charge for answers is Democratic Congressman from Ohio, Greg Landsman. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. When you see that this funding has been cut, why do you think it's cut, and what are you going to do about it?
Well, hopefully it's just a mistake and not something more sinister. But we are raising awareness. We sent a letter to the administration, and it has caused some positive responses, in the sense that the administration is saying that they are going to retrieve the data. And we heard last night that they may, in fact, reinstitute the contract. The contract is obviously very important, but what matters most is getting these kids back. Three things to keep in mind. One, Putin and Russia stole 30,000 children. And two, if you lose the data, you can lose the children. The data was tracking where these kids were, the biometrics, name, satellite images. That is going to be huge in negotiations. And then three, the only thing that really matters ultimately is getting these kids back.
Yeah, I'm curious, though, because there have been a lot of purges happening at the DoD, the Department of Defense, where they are purging all sorts of things, like stories from Holocaust survivors, war heroes that happen to be black, in their effort to get rid of anything that touches DEI. What do you make of this? What is the point of this? How is this helping Americans?
It's not helping Americans. It's hurting Americans. It's chaos. And because of Elon Musk's role and other, donors, it's corrupt. It's donors getting access because they gave hundreds of millions of dollars. It's terrible. And it's not going to ultimately wear well with Americans. Americans appreciate good services. They're undermining core services. They're indiscriminately firing people. And in the case of these children, they may have, hopefully they didn't, but they may have killed the data that would have gotten 30,000 children home, back to their families, children that had been trafficked.
That is the horrifying thought. We have met some of the families I have in Ukraine who have lost children and who are wondering where they are at this hour. So we'll see if this was a mistake or on purpose, or if it is being fixed. We will check back in with you. I want to talk about something the New York Times reporting that there was a U.S. lawmaker sending a letter to Marco Rubio on Wednesday, and about this very thing. When you look at the whole of it, you look at the whole of what DOJ has been doing, and the town halls that have been very raucous and angry against Republicans, but then Democrats are facing huge town halls as well, with people very angry that Democrats, they feel, are not fighting hard enough. So what do you say to Democratic voters who are angry that they don't feel like you all are fighting hard enough for them? What do you say to those constituents who think that?
Yeah, I don't get that as much anymore. I mean, there was a period at the beginning where there was some frustration in my town halls that, folks wanted, me or others to fight back harder. I think they're seeing that, certainly with me, but others too. Obviously there was a great deal of disappointment with the way in which, Schumer didn't fight back on this budget and say, look, there are some lines that have been crossed, serious lines that have been crossed. Until we get a resolution on that, we want a short-term a budget deal that would keep the government open. We were frustrated about that, but I think most Democrats know that the vast majority of us were on the same page. And, there's going to be frustration until the chaos and the corruption and the higher costs end. So, we just have to fight.
I want to ask you about this. Democratic Congressman Glenn Ivey is one of two Dems who have said they believe that Senator Schumer should step down from his leadership role as minority leader. Do you think the same?
I don't know. I'm not in the Senate caucus, so not for me to say. I certainly am in the camp of being very, very frustrated, and ultimately, we need new leadership. I mean, Senator Schumer's not going to do this for very long, so at some point, there's going to have to be somebody somebody else who steps up.
Representative Greg Landsman, thank you so much for coming on and talking about these really important issues to Americans across the country. Appreciate your time. John?
Report happening now.